Hi everyone, my name is Scott Drummons and I work for Nutanix. This morning I was talking to a colleague of mine about a whiteboarding session I often use in front of customers. He asked me to put it together and I thought I would use some really simple PowerPoint pictures to represent what I draw on the whiteboard and share it back with them. So Sudha, this is for you. But I'm going to go ahead and share it publicly. I'm really believe in this and it's something I talk with customers about a lot. So I wanted you all to see this and see what you think. So first, I'll start the discussion as I did a couple of weeks ago in Hong Kong, that generally speaking, I want to point out a few key technologies that exist in the enterprise: the network, SAN, connectivity for your shared storage, servers, virtualization, and apps. It's important to realize, and this is very well understood by those in IT, that each of these components, each of these technologies comes with it a specialized management service. And indeed, some of these have multiple levels of certification before you can be considered very qualified to operate that product. What that means in any company, you either have very few people that understand how to use a product deeply, in which case it's a risk to the business, or you have very many people, in which case you end up with a whole team. And when a team exists around managing storage as an example, that organization becomes calcified. It becomes very difficult to make changes that go up and down the stack. If I decide I want to install a new app like Microsoft Exchange, and it may require changes from the virtualization team and more servers, SAN changes, or even a new SAN, and network changes. And the process of bouncing those changes up and down the stack is painful. As I'm sure everyone knows, the agility of the organization suffers as these skills grow into teams, and those teams need to coordinate to support the applications. You'll recognize right away that this simplification is a gross simplification because there's not one app, there's different apps, and each of them has its own admin. And there's different servers. They may not have their own admins, but they have different management panels that require some time to figure them out. There's many different shared storages out there, and it's quite often that you'll see a different person managing EMC from managing NetApp. So as we look at now this very complex puzzle of components that has become part of modern IT, you can see why the organization has ballooned out. We've got specialists covering EMC storage. We've got specialists covering Cisco UCS. We've got specialists covering Cisco. And each of these has got some degree job security and it's a very, very important role in the organization. But he does, by the fact that he is the only person that can do his job, slows down the operations of IT. We tried to fix this in the past years with what I call these meta managers, these things that were used to wrap up some of the components and try to call the environment a converged infrastructure. The ideal is that from one panel you could manage your compute, manage your storage, manage your network. The reality of these meta managers is that they really follow the 80-20 rule. They could do 80% of the tasks, but the last 20% are the ones that took 80% of the time. This meant that no organization, even if you bought one of these converged products that had this meta manager in it, no organization could therefore let go of all of its, say, EMC management skills. No one could let go of its Cisco network skills. No one could let go of its VMware administrators or its Cisco UCS managers. So this tried to simplify some of the tasks, but it just simplified the easiest ones. And it didn't simplify the organization at all because the organization had to retain all those specialty skills. So now the organization is bloated and it's rigid, is unable to make decisions very quickly. Actually, that's not the whole picture, though, because to try to solve some of these problems around storage, we introduced a new layer. There's a couple of products out there, IBM SVC being one of them, EMC vPlex being another, that wanted to solve the problems of SAN migrations primarily with introducing a new layer. That new layer was another skill that had to be learned, usually by the storage team. And again, the more skills, the more difficult it is to get things done. The more skills, the more valuable and individual it is, and the more difficult it is for the organization to make changes. So you can see this Tower of Babel and all these different skill sets and appliances, all of these different management panels that have to be used to get something done. Why is it that Nutanix has really revolutionized IT? I mean, you'll hear from Nutanix people that the product is faster. You'll hear people say, well, it's just easier. You'll hear people say that it scales out. All of these are true. But I want to point out something that a CIO needs to think about. All of those skill sets can be replaced with one skill set. There is no longer LUN management. There's no more dealing with RAID groups or pools. There's no longer dealing with LUN masking. We don't have to do anything in terms of servers that isn't included in the management. So as a result, the organization starts to look much more lean. The organization doesn't just have fewer people, it has fewer touch points between those people. So now when you want to deploy a new app, you actually have to touch much fewer parts of the IT. And this means that app deployment is much faster, and as a result, IT is much more agile. But actually, we've gone further than this. I want to ask you, why is it that people are running VMware? Why is it VMware so popular? I would argue there's only a few key things that we really wanted out of VMware. We wanted to have encapsulated VMs, so we could separate the change of hardware from the change of operating systems. We wanted to be able to do vMotion, so we could avoid downtime during planned maintenance. We wanted to have load balancing, and we wanted to have HA, so we could have automatic recovery in the event of a server failure. Well, what if we could give you all those things with no hypervisor? That's what we're doing now at Nutanix. So take the appliance and remove the hypervisor. The hypervisor melts away into the product itself. And this means now the management panel, the meta management panel that used to promise to manage storage and servers and virtualization, indeed now is doing it because it's managing one homogeneous unit. This is the real cost savings that is the hidden story of Nutanix. It's pretty easy to measure in the organization what we can do by simplifying administration tasks. It's pretty easy to measure in the organization what you can do by having fewer people touch the environment. But this gives an obvious change to the organization's agility. That now when I want to deploy an app, I've got two things to do. Configure the appliance and configure the underlying network, and the app is ready. So if you're a huge organization, and I work with these worldwide massive financial institution all the time, you can just think about the difference between, formerly a customer told me from one of the world's biggest banks in New York, he told me that it takes about 6 months for him to do some of the change control associated with app changes. No longer. Now you've got two people to talk to, your Nutanix admin and your network admin. And while it's easy to measure some of the changes in admin time and admin people, it's difficult to measure, but impossible to deny the incredible benefits you get in agility from starting to eliminate some of those organizations and the organizational friction between them. Thank you much.